A presenter is always grateful when members of the audience want to ask questions. But every now and then, these questions can threaten to derail a presentation. And it's not just because of the topic of the question. Now, let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because it's not the questions that should worry you, but the timing of the question. Not to worry, I'll share a classic technique with you that's sure to work wonders.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Okay, here's the situation. You're up in front of an audience and you're on a roll. The participants are just beginning to warm up, so you want to be extra careful to respond to questions appropriately. A hand goes up and a rush of excitement courses through your body. You call out the person's name and you hear the question. The problem is this. The question pertains to something that you fully plan to cover in detail later. Not only that, once you enter that topic, you run the risk of traveling down a rabbit hole that will most likely confuse your audience. You also know that it will be extremely difficult to get back to your original topic without eliciting more questions. The stage is set. What should you do? Well, one thing you could do is avoid the question, but you might send out signals that discourage your most precious ally, participation. You might answer the question, but you run the risk of throwing the presentation into an illogical, confusing tailspin. So what's the solution? I say, park it. In a remote section of your room, set up a flip chart pad, whiteboard, or separate piece of paper with the words parking lot on it. Every time a participant has a question that would be better answered later, park it. Using this approach would sound something like this. The participant. Yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us how to handle a situation that required the computer and the administrator. Presenter. That's an excellent question. I'll be covering the computer's role in policy handling in about 30 minutes, and I think it might be a good idea to revisit and answer the question then. But let me write it down over here in the parking lot so we don't forget to answer it at that time. Now, I suppose you could just tell the participant that you'll answer the question at the appropriate time. But often, when the appropriate time comes, all we remember is that someone had a question relating to this topic. By casually delaying your response, you run the risk of damaging your credibility and leaving participants questioning whether you actually know the answer to his or her question. When you write it down, you give credibility to the participant who asked it and assurances that you will not forget to answer it. Responsibility becomes yours to keep an eye on that parking lot and answer the questions at the appropriate time. You might even want to check the answers off as you address them, which will alert the participants that you are actively answering their questions. Either way, you'll be back in control and in position to work with questions, no matter when they're asked.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.